just a fair bit going on. Fair bit.
Oh, I know. I was getting some updates as I was walking in the office just this afternoon. There's a fair bit going on. So that whole Fafita thing, was that just a little ploy to kind of get the money going? So you compared it to the Cherry Evans?
Yeah, well, remember Cherry Evans back with Manly hovered, I can't remember what the year or the figure was. I want to say it was like a 5-year, $5 million thing to go to the Titans from Manly. And it was basically all done and dusted. And then he basically backflipped, turned around and said, actually, no, I'm going to stay with Manly. And everyone was shocked, like all the reporters, even the Titans basically had it all ready to go.
Yeah.
And it never happened. So, yeah, to your point, maybe this is a ploy from Fafita.
Well played, sir.
Squeeze the stone, as
well
it were.
played.
What do you make of, it's got so much to get through, Jello, but what do you make of the Kalen Ponga story as well? So the story coming out of Newcastle is that there's been some third-party payments that were approved by the NRL in 2020. He hasn't seen any of it. His dad, Andre, who I believe is his agent as well, has basically gone to the NRL saying, hey, there's a problem here, it needs to be investigated. The NRL is investigating. However, people in Newcastle, or the rumours coming out of Newcastle through various Australian media outlets, is that they feel like this is just a ploy for Andre to get his son out of Newcastle.
So he's kind of blown the whistle on himself.
Yes.
Essentially.
It's essentially, although it's nothing to do with the third party deals you usually see where like it's breaching the salary cap. It's more he hasn't got the money of a deal that was approved by the NRL. Okay. So it's like when you do those high end TV commercials and the money doesn't come in, it's sort of the millions that you're promised don't come in. But it's an interesting story. We have to follow that one closely. And the other one, Wayne Bennett going back to Souths. 3 million, 3 years, Jello. I don't think that's the answer for Souths, to be honest.
Yeah. Has he got 3 years in him? How old is he now?
What you mean, like you mean life or coaching?
Bit of both, man. How old is he now?
He's 70. Is he 70 or is he 80s? Late 70s,
I know he's
80s.
70s, but we're in his 70s. I know he's getting on, man.
He's 74.
74, okay. Oh, he's a spring chicken. He's not as old as I thought.
Well, yeah. It's my only thing with Wayne Bennett, and I think he's a fantastic coach. Do not get me wrong, and he's done great stuff with the Dolphins. But, there is a point, I think, where no matter how long you've been coaching, the game's changed enough and the way players prepare and play has changed enough that your methodology may not work as well as it did even like 10 years ago. Because Wayne Bennett 10 years ago, think about what he did with the Dragons, Souths, and we were talking about Souths in 2013, but I guess he laid foundations there, but Madge took all of the credit. But there's elements of even 10 years ago that worked. But I'm just wonder, if now given that environment, the Cody Walkers, the Latrell Mitchells, the people that he's got to try and work with, I'm just not convinced that that'll be the answer for South.
I think something about his coaching style, the beautiful thing is the simplicity of it. So I think that's the reason why he's been able to coach over these decades, is because he just strips it right back to, being very simple. I think I read his book a few years ago. He said, he's got 2 speeches, one if we're winning, one if we're losing. One's in the left pocket, one's in the right pocket. Doesn't change. Like he's just, like he doesn't, like you say, as the game changes and how people prepare and stuff like that changes. I think as a coach, he knows what his role is, and he just does his role very well without overcomplicating things.
No, and I've heard that from players as well. I've said that. What does he do so well? He just gives me a job, and which is what a lot of people say about Webster too.
Yeah.
Maybe that would work with a Cody Walker, Latrell Mitchell, who you feel like at the moment that team is totally lost. They've bereft of ideas, of motivation, of determination, and injuries as well. But I had them as a top 4 team in 2024, and it's one of the biggest surprises.
Well, it was Bennett when he was last there. He took them to the grand final against Penrith, so that was after the Madge stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. But obviously you got the Dragons, got the Broncos success as well.
Even the Knights, when he got the Knights in the top 8. I think for the couple of years that he was there, a lot of people say that he times it well. So he'll time it until the squad's ready to go, ready to win a comp, and then he'll jump on board.
And then the Kiwis as well. Let's not forget about the Kiwis.
And Great Britain.
That's true. All right, Jello. Let's rip the Band-Aid off of Sunday afternoon, shall we?
What happened?
38 points to 18. I was busy.
Whatever. I miss it.
Now, here's my take, and I want you to just dovetail off the back of it. People will say that I'm being a cheerleader. They'll say that I am too, biased towards the Warriors, and I'm, thinking too positively, not being critical enough. Remove the 15-minute period at the beginning, and I actually think it was a pretty good performance from the Warriors. The attack looked better. We were getting points, which is probably the key thing. We were threatening every time we got into the red zone. And to an extent, I think we did clean up elements of our discipline and of our ball control. The problem was it was that 15-minute period that basically ruined the game because it was a momentum thing, it's confidence, etc. And despite the fact that the Warriors have been struggling over the last 4 weeks, I almost put that first 15 minutes down to the fact that we had to, late changes with Roger. Sean picks up an injury, so you've got Adam Pompey and Ed Cossey. Who has Pompey played a game this year?
Pompey has, Cossey hasn't.
Yeah, right. So you got, but he hasn't been a regular. No. Pompey. So you got him and Cossey who have not been regulars playing on edges against the Joey Manus, the Dominic Youngs of this competition.
Yeah.
I almost expected it to be a bit of a frenetic start where maybe people miss a couple of beats. We can be critical of them for sure. We can criticise the way that they played and how they went about it all. But I still think that the Warriors, over the 80 minutes, without that 50-minute period, actually played pretty well.
So you talk about how the Warriors combinations got blown off the park, right? First 15 minutes. So that, especially that Cossey Pompey duo out on that left edge. You match that with the emotion of it being Hargraves' 300th game. Mm-hmm. So very similar to the way that they came out of in that Anzac game against the Dragons. They came out real hard. I think Hargraves' first carry knocks out Moses Suli straight off the bat, and then they run away 60-0 on that one. Similar to that with the Warriors game. So first 15 minutes, they just blow them off the park completely. And a lot of it was, I think it was like 3rd minute, 6th minute, 9th minute, 12th minute. It was all down that left edge. So once Cossey got his bearings, he was all right. And like you said, for the rest of the game, it was 3 tries each outside of that 15 minutes. So, I know what you mean. You put that 15 minutes aside, it wasn't too bad of a performance.
So I guess the question that everyone's going to have now, Jello, and we'll look ahead towards this weekend in about 10 minutes' time, but I guess the big question people ask is how far done is the season now, given the results that we've now had, 4 in a row, up against Penrith this week, could be 5 in a row, and the injury toll as well. And look, the positive thing is Penrith and Dolphins, get them out of the way in the bye. A lot of them are coming back after the bye. I was looking at the casualty award yesterday. The list, if a lot of them come back after the bye, I think it's Luke Metcalf is the only one who's longer term, and there might be one other who's, I think Roger's looking at round 17. The rest of them are all coming back after the bye. So that is good news. You're going to get a whole bunch of troops back. But I guess right now, sitting in the position that the Warriors are in, they're sitting at 14th on the ladder with just 7 points through the first 10 games, and they got a lot of injuries on the list. At what point do you look at it and go, maybe it's at the journey, it's going to be a step too far to, go all the way?
We just don't know how much things can change too, because you talk about after the bye, they get a lot of players back, but also across the league, there's a lot of injuries in other teams too. So you like, for example, you matched the Warriors against the Knights a couple of weeks ago. Like, Knights are missing heaps of troops. They're missing Frizzell, they're missing Ponga. That's a game the Warriors should have won. And it applies to other teams as well. Canberra's doing it tough. There's a lot of teams doing it tough, and you don't know, in 2 rounds, 3 rounds time, what those matchups are going to look like, what the comp's going to look like. So as much as you think about what we're bringing to the table, it's also about what other teams are bringing as well, and whether we can take on those challenges.
Yeah, it's still one of the toughest comps in the world, and people got to remember that, in terms of the parity of the teams.
Yeah.
And
well, even the amount of injuries. I was going to put this question to Scope, actually. I might save it, yeah.
Yeah, you save that one for Scope. Talk about injuries. The text that's coming here from Chris on 8833, and we do welcome your feedback. And Chris, I'm not going to take a dig at you specifically, but it does feel like there is a really, not nasty, but a really sour undercurrent of people who have almost revelled in the Warriors being bad again. And they've gone back to, I knew this was going to happen. They're back to normal, classic Warriors doing what they did. I told everyone last year this would happen. And, if that's how you want to approach the situation, then that's your prerogative and that's your opinion. I still think you have to look at the Warriors through the first, let's say, 7 rounds. It's probably been since the Dragons, who do we have after? We had the Dragons, the Raiders, or the Titans, and the Roosters. But the games that we lost in those first 7 rounds, the Sharks game was very, very tight. Could have won the Melbourne game. There were games in there that we perhaps should have won as well. And then the injury toll hit. And look, I know every team gets injuries, but we were getting them in very, very key positions, and particularly, guys like Murata, who was giving us the punch off the bench that the Warriors have really lacked for that sort of 20 to 60 minute period. So. I don't think it's as simple for those people out there who are reveling in it, sort of going backwards. I don't think it's as simple as, they've gone back to the old Warriors and this is what it's going to be like. I just genuinely think that there's a lot of factors going into this season.
Yeah, but that's a very Kiwi attitude to look at things.
100%.
So we love it when when disaster strikes and we get to rip shreds off people. It's very much that tall poppy thing.
Yep.
So are you saying it's not as bad as it looks?
And like I said, people will come at me and say I'm a cheerleader, and even Chris says, get off it, Sam. The Roosters clocked off after being 22-0 up. But funnily enough, I watched the Roosters game, and at the end of 80 minutes, I wasn't deflated like I would have been 2 or 3 years ago, because I saw enough there, and I know what we're dealing with injury-wise. Like, look, the Premiership is... I'm nearly at the point of saying that the Premiership slipped out of our fingers in terms of 2024. Top 8 is still very much on the cards, particularly when you look at the back half of the schedule for the Warriors, and should we get all those guys back to full fitness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I there are encouraging things. The one thing I will say, and we do have to take a break, Joe, but the one thing I will say, and would be interested to hear your thoughts, we are lacking depth, obviously, in the half position. Like, Sean Johnson goes down and we are scrambling, right? This week we're putting Chance at 6 and Tamati at 7. And it doesn't look like, apart from the Jet Cleary signing, we've really got anything coming through New South Wales Cup.
That's funny, though, because we were talking about how good the depth was at the start of the year.
Except for that position, though. And we do have depth overall, but in that position in particular, it feels like we don't. And we're sort of realising it.
I think it was in the preseason, because before Ronald Volkman left.
Yep.
We were talking about how we had Johnson, we had Metcalf, then we had Samadi, and we had Chanel coming back, then we got Ronnie, and it was like, look at our depth, it's great. And then, injury, Ronnie's gone. It's... I don't know, I think compared to other teams, I think our depth is all right. Like, we're not debuting halves,
Yeah. Yeah, but we're not. I mean,
we might be close to that.
I know, but you look at Canberra, right, with Kyle Weeks and Ethan Strange, but they're guys that are going to be genuine stars of the future, and that's what Ricky's having to he's having to debut them. Whereas, like, someone's even texting here, like, who do we have in New South Wales? If Chance was injured, or Tamati was injured, like, who's actually underneath those guys in New South Wales Cup or the
we got Ben Farr.
Ben Farr.
So he featured in the preseason a little bit. He's reminds me like a Peter Wallace kind of guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Fiery redhead.
Yeah.
Bit rangy, a little bit like Michael Morgan meets Peter Wallace.
6 or a 7.
Have a love child. He's a 6. Okay. Plays both. He can play fullback, one of those guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bit of a utility. Well, that's just the only thing I've got, Jello, with Sean obviously now being injured as I guess where to from here. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have a quick look at this weekend against the Panthers, and around about 2:30, just after, we're going to chat with Justin Horo, the skip, as we look ahead towards Magic Round. Running it straight here on SENZ. Stay with us. We're running it straight here on SENZ, and we've got a big Magic Round coming up this weekend. We're going to catch up with Justin Horo in around about 10 minutes' time to talk through some of the other big games across the weekend over in Brisbane. We are heading over there, SENZ. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on the ground. On Friday, we've got a live show out of Lord Alfred's from 6 till 8 New Zealand time, 4 till 6 if you're listening over in Australia and you're in Brisbane. Come on down to Lord Alfred's, myself and Blake Ayshford. We're hoping to get Kevin Campion in there as well. A couple of Queensland boys floating around. Might stop by and have a pint. Then we go into the Seagulls Broncos game on the Friday night. We're calling the Sharks Roosters on Saturday and the Warriors Panthers on Sunday at 3:50 Jello, and a game that you're looking at to try and get your season back on track, but it's against the reigning premiers in the top of the table. I'll run through the team list for the Warriors because we want to dissect that before we have a look at the Panthers. So Tane Tuopiki coming in at the number 1 because Chancellor Klukstar is playing number 6. That pushes Tamati to the 7. Then you got Marcelo Montoya and Dallin on the 2 wings with Ali Leatoa and Adam Pompey in the centres. Adam Fanua, Blake Bunty Afoa in the front row with Wade Egan, Jackson Ford, Mitch Barnett in the second row with Tohu Harris the 13. Then Dylan Walker, Tom Ali, Jazz Tavanga and Jacob Labord on the interchange. Some interesting forced shifts for Andrew Webster. Jello, what do you make of the 17?
I think there's a little bit of ducks and drakes going on, a little bit of smoke and mirrors.
Oof.
With I don't think Tane's going to play fullback. I think him and Chance are going to switch.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I know Chance wouldn't have much experience playing at 6. I know Tane has. So when he was at Burleigh, he spent a lot of time at the 6. So I think
was he saying
keep Chance at fullback?
When we had Tane on, didn't he say that he was behind Jaden Campbell?
Yeah,
at
that's
fullback,
right.
So he played in the halves.
Yeah,
that's
right.
So that's interesting. So you think he's in the 6 then?
I think that's what's going to happen. But I'm also very excited. Ali Leatoa.
He's my man crush. He's my man crush. The only thing...
He kills it. Have you seen his cup highlights this year?
Oh, mate, he is an absolute freak. I love this guy. The only thing I'll say, and my mate was messaging about it this morning, it's just unfortunate that he's coming back in with a team around him that isn't sort of the first team, if you know what I mean. Like there's no Sean and, players are playing out of position, but very, very exciting talent. And he's coming up against two of the best centres in the comp, and Isaac Tungo and Taylor May. But I'm very excited to see him.
Yeah, he's going to be awesome. I just hope that the Warriors don't try to play around Penrith.
Yep.
I think Bulldogs made that mistake last week with that left edge. They just attacked. They had heaps of ball, heaps of possession, great territory. Just kept trying to go around. Panthers are a very, very good defensive team at shooing teams out over the sideline. So if you watch them come up, they all stay together. No one shoots out. They just hold that line and just shuffle you all the way out.
Yeah, and the key for the Warriors is going through the middle, right? That's where the successes come.
But even if you are having a shot at the edge, like bringing it back inside. So it'd be good to see Leotawa on that, drop him back inside and let him skip back to the middle.
Good interchange as well. Dylan Walker, Tom Ali, Jazz Fung and Jacob Lehman. There's some good size, some good punch.
Still no Zion. I don't understand that one. Like you talk about some punch, that's one guy that brings the punch for sure, but I don't know.
Do you see, he's on the extended reserves alongside Paul Roach, Tannistauer, Smith, Ben Farr. Do you see any of them as maybe being a late change, or it's like Andrew Webster playing all these tricks on Ivan Cleary?
Nah, I don't think so. I think you'd keep it as that. The only thing I could think of is possibly Paulie Roach coming in when he did the other week. Just to help out at 9, but you got Jazz there if you really need him, so I don't think you need to carry a 9 as well.
Someone's just messaged me in here saying, if we get beaten by the Tigers, what will the excuse be? Hardest comp in the world? Hardly. It's only played in two states of Australia. Well, I can tell you that 2 points separates 5th and 11th place. And if you want to go even further than that, the Eels are in 13 on 8 and the Dolphins in 4th on 14. So, difference between top 4 and almost bottom 4 is only 3 wins. So I'd say that's a pretty tight competition. Anyway, the Panthers and their 17 Jello, pretty stock standard apart from no Nathan Cleary. So Dylan Edwards, Sunir Taruva, Isaac Tungo, Taylor May, Brian Toto, Jack Cole, Jerome Luai, Moses Leota, Mitch Kenny, James Fisher Harris, Luke Garner, Liam Martin, Isaiah Yeo, then Dane Laurie, Lindsay Smith, Matthew Eisenhuth and Maverick Gaia. So it's a pretty formidable Panthers side, although no Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, it's a good team, and I think they ran close to the Doggies last week. I think what happens is if you lose a half during the game, it can be very disruptive, and everybody's got to reshuffle. When you're prepared during the week for Nathan Cleary not to play, you've got a lot better chance of showing up with more steady structure of how you're going to go about the game. So I think they're going to be a lot more prepared than they were last week.
What do you reckon, Angelo? Give me your thoughts on what the Warriors need to. You already mentioned about not going around them. Where's the game going to be won or lost, and give us your prediction.
Oh man, I'd love to say that this is going to be the upset of the round. I'd love to say that, and with the new players coming in, sometimes they bring a little bit of that beginner's luck, but I don't know. You know what? I'll say Warriors 1-12.
Yeah. I fear for this game, to be honest. I said it about the Roosters game. I did fear that might turn into a little bit of a cricket score. I'm a little bit fearful that this one might go the same way. I
think it's very similar to when they played in the finals last year. So we went there with no SJ, and it was kind of a matter of let's hold on for as long as we can. Yeah. And they played well. Warriors played good, had a dig.
But they're never going to win. That's probably the point.
Never going to win. I think this weekend could be a case of let's hold on and, in the last 10 minutes, can we be within 6? Right. Can we be within 2 tries to, pull a rabbit out the hat?
I don't think we're going to do it, and don't cut that up and send it to Andrew Webster like last week when I said we were right behind it. We can still be in behind them, Jello, even though we think they may not get the job done. So there you go, 3:50 on Sunday. We're going to have live build-up from 3 p.m. New Zealand time, 1 p.m. over in Australia, and we have live commentary of that match. Right, we're going to take a break now. When we come back, we're going to get Justin Horo, Scope the Skip, on the line to have a look at some of these other big matchups over Magic Round, because there are some very, very tasty clashes as well. Maybe talk to him about some of this other news floating around the NRL. Stay with us here on Running It Straight. Welcome back into Running It Straight. Justin Horo going to join us very, very shortly. A couple of texts that have come in here on 8833. Tane to play in the Hards for sure, Jello. He's been spending a lot of time there at New South Wales Cup as well. So he's been playing in that jersey in the New South Wales Cup. Another one here says the Roosters didn't clock off. The Warriors stayed with them all the way. Cossey needs to go into the forwards. Good to see Ben Farr in the picture. He could be our next Lance Hohire.
Lani.
Thoughts on that, Huntley Hurricane?
Yeah, for sure, bro. Similar bills, actually.
Just minus the ginger hair.
Minus the ginger hair.
Another one from Josh on the West Coast says, afternoon, dads. Who will coach the Dolphins now, and why is Bennett essentially leaving a better club for the Bunnies? Surely the Dolphins could go deep in the playoffs than the Bunnies over the next 3 years.
I'll put my hand up for that job.
The Dolphins' job for Wayne Bennett was always only a 2-year contract, just so people were clear. He always only signed on for 2 years. And then, is it Christian Wolf who's going to take over? I think it's always been the plan. So I've seen some comment out there about, oh, this sucks for the Dolphins and all that sort of stuff, but that is how it was always going to play out.
Christian Wolf, so he was the one at St. Helens, so he took him to 4 titles in a row, titles in a row, and came back as the assistant for Wayne Bennett. Now he's going to carry on.
Yeah, and he also coached Tonga.
Yeah. And that World Cup.
2017.
When they made the semis. Yeah, he's a very, very good coach.
Sammy Harv's depth was okay at the start. We had SJ Metcalf in the NRL, CHT, and Tamati Martin on New South Wales Cup. Luke Hanson also coming up in New South Wales. That's from Mike. Yeah, look, injuries have not been favourable to the Warriors at all. And another one here from Lemmy says, totally agree with you boys. They are playing well. It's not going their way with the refs' calls. When they take the ref out of the game and the calls go their way, they will win the games. And when they make the top 8, look out. Always believe in the Warriors. There's a part of me, Joe, that says make the top 8, and that's basically step number 1 right now where they are sitting. And if they do have a full body of players come the top 8, come the sort of finals time, then 100% anything can happen. Yeah. We know the history suggests 8. It's always the winner always comes from the top 4. But the Warriors have a pretty favourable back end of the season. To climb up the NRL ladder. And once round 1 rolls around and they've got everyone back, who knows? Yeah,
just the run of form, they just look more and more unlikely, like a lot more unlikely than they did at the start of the year. And it's quite a funny thing in sports. If you look at every sport, the favoured team or the top 2 favoured teams are usually bringing it home. So you look at the Premier League, you look at the NBA, you look at the NFL, the favourites are getting it done. And NRL's not much different. Like Penrith have started the last 3 years as favourites and finished it every time. So I
do think Penrith are the exception. They've really set that trend over the last few years because outside of that, it is a bit of a gamble as to who else wins. And we had South, like I said, we had South top 4. You have other teams making the top. I don't know. Did you have South top 4? Or am I just talking to myself?
Top 8. I had them
top 8. Okay,
yeah.
I had them a little bit high, but then it all goes to poo. Anyway, let's get to our next guest, Justin Horo, Scope. He is on the line, and he joins us now here on Running It Straight. Scope, welcome in.
Skip, what's up, baby?
No, maybe isn't on the line. I don't know if he can hear us, but I can't hear him. We'll keep trying. We'll put him on hold. We'll keep trying him. So he's there now. Scope, do we have you now? Oh, there he is. There he is. He's got him on the line. How are you? Oh, maybe we've lost him again.
He's underwater.
Mate, is he underwater? He might be driving through one of the tunnels on his way to Brisbane. We want to talk to him about Magic Round. Oh, there he is.
Have you got me now?
Now we've got you.
Coming through?
He's here to stay.
You're coming through loud and clear, mate. I've heard you've got basically the free license for this weekend at Magic Round. The missus has gone up to stay with the family, and you've got free reign in Brisbane, mate.
Oh, that's good intel. That is good intel. She's away for the week, so apologies for delaying the call, boys. I just finished playing golf and just took down SEN's finest, Brian Fletcher, for 100. So
wow.
I've started Magic Round, Magic Week good.
How'd you go, mate? What do you play off as well, Scope? What's your handicap at?
I'm off 12 at the moment, and okay. I had 41 points today, so I played really well.
Yeah, wow, you've overachieved. That's a fantastic result, mate. Well, that's a brilliant way to kick off the weekend coming up, mate. We want to talk to you about it, Magic Round. But first, there's a lot floating around in the NRL news-wise, mate, including Wayne Bennett heading back to Souths, basically all but confirmed 3 years for $3 million. Is that the answer for Souths? Do you think? Is that enough to turn them around next season?
Yeah, for sure. You've seen the results he's got there in the past. There's always this feeling that Wayne leaves teams in a bad way when he leaves. But realistically, if you look at the squad, he hasn't taken anyone but Mark Nichols after the Dolphins, and they've sort of fell off the cliffs now. So same roster, similar stars. I think he'll do a great job.
And David Fafita as well. We've seen the news that he's going to stay with the Titans. Obviously, they'll be absolutely chuffed about that, and a few other clubs that were chasing him will probably be a little bit disappointed. But that's also big news as well.
Yeah, that's huge. It was a big signing for the Roosters. They very rarely miss out on big stars like this, especially when it seemed like he'd agreed and it was all but signed. So. It was a massive one for the Titans. I don't know if it was maybe the Desi factor or a little bit of guilt, and I'm not sure what it was, but it's huge for the Titans. Yeah,
I know the headline saying a Titanic turnaround, but yeah, they'll be absolutely loving it.
Hey Scott, what about the news on Sticky Ricky down in Canberra getting the extension there? Any surprises, you reckon?
No, not really, Jello. Sticky, it's one of those destinations, as you know, bro. Like, you've been overseas, you've played in the Super League, but it's a little bit colder in Canberra, and it's similar to the Super League weather that we played in, and it's not the most desirable location for players. So it's a real specific player that I think Sticky identifies down there, and being a legend, having ties to the club by winning premierships and being able to recruit players, I think it was a big reason why obviously they wanted to keep Sticky down there, and even coaches, right? Like going to Canberra, it's out of sight, out of mind. So you've got to have a certain personality to be in Canberra, and Sticky's definitely the guy for the job there.
Right, Magic Round this weekend, Scott. We're all very much looking forward to it. I know you are as well. Maybe just for the listeners, maybe paint the scene for us a little bit of what makes Magic Round so much fun. I personally think it's one of the they do it the best almost out of any competition really around the world. But getting all the teams in one place, making it a real carnival, a real festival. What makes it so special?
Look, it's a must on the calendar. If you haven't done it before, I highly recommend it. I've been lucky enough to be up there for the last 3 years. I think it's just the location of Suncorp. Obviously, the stadium is probably the best stadium that we've got in the NRL, Suncorp. The location and being close to Caxton Street, everything's not too far away from each other. So you can be in a close vicinity for, whether you have a few beers and want to walk home or get a taxi. It's just the perfect spot. And everyone, look, there have been conversations here about, whether we should move it away from Suncorp, and I think they've locked it in for another couple of years. But I just don't think it would work as well anywhere else, just because geographically the way it's all set up and Suncorp in particular, it's just got a different feeling about it up there. And yeah, it goes really. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, this is my 4th year, so looking forward to getting back up there.
I think we need to enter some conversations too about Jello making his way there, because the SENZ boys they've left me off the list this year. They assume that I only fly first class, but
it's sort of like when you get your student loan and you have to be under a certain salary to get the student loan to get the free trip, Jello. You gotta cut out these side hustles that you've been making your millions off, mate. But no, we'd love to have you there. Scott, I want to talk to you about some of the games. First of all, Seagulls Broncos on Friday night, and I probably would have circled this one, at the start of the year as being a real, sort of cracker, top 4 matchup. Now heading into it, you got the injuries. Obviously, Turbo's out for a while. You got Adam Reynolds out for the Broncos. It just sort of changes the dynamic a little bit, but it's still going to be a massive game in front of a home crowd for the Bronx.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know why Manly have given this home game to Broncos and Magic Round for the last 3 years, because it hasn't worked out for them. And I think full strength and a fully fit Turbo would have been a different game. But I think it's going to be, I played 3 years at Manly, and I still got that. They're probably the team that I follow the most or want to go the best. So. I'm not too confident this week. The Broncos are looking so good, mate. Reece Walsh and Ezra Mann proved last week that even without Reynolds, they can pull it back a bit and play conservatively enough to get the job done, and then still have that brilliance. So I think Broncos and Broncos comfortably.
Before we jump into these other games, so you just mentioned some of the injuries across the league. So there is a lot, right? And I was talking to our mate Chanel during the week. He's coming back from a calf injury. And I asked him what's with all the injuries, and he said, he kind of just half jokingly said, I made the games just too fast. And I thought about it for a second, and he might have a point. Like, I feel like the game at the moment, they've taken out as many stoppages as you can, and I feel like this new rule with the dropout thing, so people don't really want to, opt for the dropout or repeat set. They want to keep it in play and try and score. Has the game reached a point, in your opinion? Has the game reached a point where it's been sped up as much as it can, and it's gone past the point now where it's too fast? People are carrying calf injuries, hammies. Do you think it's gone too far, the whole speeded up thing?
Yeah, 100%, Joe. I guess everyone was the same. Once you look at all the stars that we've lost in the last couple of weeks and all soft tissue injuries, as you know, those injuries normally come from just fatigue by just going too hard. And they've changed the rules a fair bit. I think they just need to pull up for a couple of years. I think the players and the athletes will develop over the next couple of years and eventually get used to the pace. But there's just been so many that they've implemented over the last couple of years, and specifically around our best players who are either playing international footy at the end of the year, or specifically with the Origin players. You look at all the stars, with Tino at the start of the year, a little bit different, but all those guys have played a lot of footy, and the game's only getting quicker, mate. I went and watched a couple of games. I call a couple of games for SEN every now and again, and just watching it from up in the box now, I'm only 3 or 4 years removed from the Super League, maybe about 8 from the NRL, and I don't feel like I could. There's no way I could keep up with the modern game.
And it's terrible for fantasy, NRL fantasy as well, Scope, just quietly, and people making up some moves in our fantasy league. The one game that I feel like it really does have the feel of top billing is Sharks Roosters on Saturday night at 7:30. No Joey Manu for the Roosters, so they've got their injury there. But aside from that, two teams that are pretty much at full strength, two teams that are both flying very, very high. Almost opposite to the Broncos Seagulls. I probably wouldn't have circled this one earlier in the season, but now you're sitting here going, this is game of the round stuff.
Yeah, Sharks have been super consistent this year, but it's really the form of the Roosters that's probably been the highlight of the last month. They seem to have given Sammy Walker the reins, and with Luke Keary announcing his retirement, sort of taking a back seat and letting Sammy run the team, and they're just on fire at the moment. They've just got strike power out wide. They've got a powerful pack, still led by the 300 gamer in the middle and Jared, and with Sammy Walker, I don't know how you do video against Sammy Walker. Some of these players that are coming through now, specifically the young Queensland players in Ezra Mann, Reece Walsh and Sam Walker, there's not much film you can do on them to try to figure out what they're going to do, because I think a lot of the times they don't know what they're doing until the very last minute.
No, and that's an interesting point, Scope, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about how it seems like the Warriors really lack that unpredictability, and we highlighted Cam Munster, Reece Walsh, and Jerome Luai as these players that when and you obviously brought up Ezra Mam and Sam Walker as well, guys that when they get the ball you just don't know what they're going to do, and sometimes it doesn't come off. Sometimes they'll throw a forward pass, they'll knock it on, they'll do something silly, but by and large their unpredictability is what makes the team attack so potent, and conversely the defence suddenly has to react to a whole bunch of stuff. So it seems like more and more now teams are trying to fill one or two spots roster with just one of those players that's just a little bit, I wouldn't say temperamental, but unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said before, Broncos are lucky they've got a couple. That's why I thought Adam Reynolds was going to be such a big loss for him, because he sort of, calms everyone down, and you still need that steady influence, like, the Sean Johnsons and the Adam Reynolds in your team, just because these young players can, look, Walshy's the perfect example. Like, he can have three errors and put on either score a try and set two up in a half a footy. He's just that sort of player. So you've got to find that balance with him. But going back to the point before, like I said, it's so hard to defend against him. He just puts, even though he makes a few errors, it feels like it's just relief for the defence rather than, all right, let's attack. It's like they're just trying to gather their breath. So Warriors a tricky one. It worked so well for them last year, but They do look very predictable in the sense they were so right-side dominant, I thought, there for a couple of weeks. And then even more so with Rog now missing. I thought they missed a couple of opportunities there before Rog got injured to sort of just give him some early ball, get some shape out the back of Tomato. But, when you got Sean Johnson, obviously the ball's going to go that way more often than not. So just finding that balance for them, I think will be the key if they can find their way and fight back into the top 8.
Just back to the Roosters quickly. So you mentioned the Hargraves factor, right? It's dawned on me just recently that when Hargraves leaves, along with Tupou on the wing, when they both leave at the end of the season, that's very much the end of an era. Like that's the end of that 2013 Roosters team. Off the top of my head, I don't think there's anyone else in that squad. Maybe Jennings. I don't think he's hanging around though. But that's like the end of the Mitch Pearce, Jake Friend, Bray Finau. All those guys have now fully moved on once Hargraves leaves. Does that bring an emotional factor, you reckon, for the Roosters and, the squad that they have this year? Is this their shot to do it this year before, a kind of big rebuilding stage begins?
Yeah, good point, Jello. Actually, yeah, the last dance sort of vibe for Jared.
Last dance.
He's so well respected. He's one of those guys who's frustrating to play against because he's he really pushes it and he goes over the line at times. But he's highly respected across the league. He's highly respected at that club. So you can see like the 300. I think he played his 300th game against the Rabbitohs. They smacked the Rabbits. He played his 300th game for the club on the weekend. They smacked the Warriors. So they really live for his milestone games, and he's such an important part of that club. And just because they're in a window now too, like Joey Manu's going to French rugby, Joseph Swali is going to Union next year. So they've missed out on David Fafita. So
no Keary as well.
Oh, Keary's another one. Yeah. So there's plenty of reasons for them to have a real crack this year for sure.
Awesome stuff, Scope. Well, look, I've also just seen, I can't believe what I'm actually reading as well, 6:30 a.m. Friday, the Levels Run Club. You will not find me up there at 6:30, my friend, but I'm stoked that you guys are doing some stuff about Medra Ground. It's going to be awesome. A fantastic weekend, as Jello said, SENZ crew heading over as well, so we might bump into you at some stage, mate. Enjoy it, have some fun, stay out of trouble, and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks for having me, boys.
There you go. Justin Horo, the Scope, and Levels Network will be up there, of course, in full show, as will SEN and SENZ and all the usual crews. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you are interested in a 6:30 run, by the way, 50 Oxlow Drive, New Farm, Friday 6:30. That's the message that I've got, if you want. Absolutely not. But basically they're saying get the legs moving before ripping in for the weekend. So I'm assuming Scope and Willie Mason will lead the charge. We'll take a break. You're running it straight. We'll come back in a moment. Running it straight, we're 2 minutes away from 3 o'clock. We're going to hand over to the run home very, very shortly. We didn't actually get tips in for the weekend, Joe, so I might just do that quickly. Friday night's the first game at Magic Ground with the Raiders and the Bulldogs. Jordan Rapana back for the Raiders this weekend. What do you reckon?
Rapana's back. I'm going to go Bulldogs 1-12. I think they're building nicely. They're building nicely. Building very nicely. What about this stat? So when they won in 2004, they hadn't lost a game at home leading up to round 10. The Bulldogs this year have not lost a game at home, if that's an omen you want to go by.
Play the X-Files music. They didn't lose to Penrith by too much either. No. So you're taking Bulldogs in that one. Broncos, Seagulls, who are you taking?
I'm going to go Broncos in a close game.
Broncos for me as well. Knights, Titans, the Saturday 5 p.m. game.
I think Titans look very good attacking-wise. And I think for all these games, I think teams are going to, and players are going to step up and teams are going to do a little bit better than usual just because of the occasion. I
agree. Yeah, there's a lot of atmosphere around it. Sharks, Roosters, the big one, Saturday, 7:30.
I got Sharks 13+.
What?
Yeah. So it's the best attack versus the best defense. And I think it's a defensive comp. Sharks are going to weather that storm where the Roosters come out and bull rush you at the start.
13+.
How'd you end up calling that game, by the way? Did you just lucky dip landed on that one?
No, we picked the games we wanted to call. So we picked we picked ones that we thought might be good.
Oh, that's a cracker. This game is around.
Oh, no, I can't wait to call it. I am going to take the Sharks, but I think it'll be close. Rabbitohs, Cowboys, quickly.
I'm going to take the Rabbitohs, the Warriors, the Storm, and the Dolphins.
Wow, I love it. Quick fire. And I won't disagree with you on all of them, except I'll take the Cowboys over the Rabbits.
You got the Warriors too?
No, Panthers. Oh. Sorry, Jello. That's us for running it straight. We'll be back on Friday from the Lord Alfred's pub on the Caxton in Brisbane. Run home up next.
SENZ. It's Kiwi for Sport.